We have saved thousands installing this, these, this, and this. And we'll tell you how we did it. YouTube is a massively good resource. I'm not the handiest bloke in the world, but getting onto YouTube for anything you're about to tackle and having a look about what's involved and doing it yourself will save you thousands. So what we thought we'd do today is run you through the cruiser and run you through everything that we have installed ourselves, and we're going to rate them into how much time it took us and the difficulty rating that we have found, and any sneaky marketplace buys that we've purchased along the way, because obviously a lot of this stuff we've bought new, but we've also had a really good time on marketplace. So we're going to go through all the main bits that we have installed, and we're going to show you what we think of them, how long, how much, and if you should do it yourself. Safari Armax ECU. Now this retails about $4,000. I was very lucky. I picked one up off marketplace for $450, would you believe? Pretty much brand new, had been in a vehicle. When they took it out, there was one piece missing off the exhaust where you have to drill for the exhaust temperatures. Ordered that off Safari. Difficulty rating? Difficult. Difficult. Andy and I have got big paws in trying to get some of these sensors in, especially through the firewall, into the pedal underneath, into the exhaust. Was tricky. Needed to buy a couple of extra tools for it. And time, probably about 6 hours. Would I recommend you to do this? Look, if you're mechanically minded, you could do it with a bit of instruction from wherever. Would I recommend it? Oh, I don't know. It took us a while to install this, but yeah, if you were committed, you probably could. Safari Armax Snorkel. Bought this at a four-wheel drive show a few years ago. Difficulty rating on this one, I put a medium, but I've put it to medium to scary because you've got to cut through the guard with a recip saw or an air saw or something, and that's never a pleasant thing. It does come with all the templates, picks up the factory mounting points. You do have to fab the airbox a bit to get the big snorkel to fit into the factory airbox. Probably about a 4-hour fit. Would I recommend this? Oh, I couldn't get my big arms in up here to get these screws done. You'd have to take the whole guard off. I didn't bother doing that. 2 years later, it's not moving. Would I recommend it? If you don't like cutting through your car, no. If you're happy to do that, you could probably do it. Carbon 12,000 pound winch, picked it up at a four-wheel drive show last year, brand new. Difficulty rating to fit, I'd say easy. As long as you can get the Bulbar off easily and you mount the winch up in, there's a couple of cables up, through an isolator, and it's fitted. Took me about 2 hours. Would I recommend you fit this? It's probably not the hardest thing in the world to fit. Might be worth watching YouTube and giving it a go. The only variable will be how hard it is to get up through your Bulbar, or whether you have to take the Bulbar off or not. This Bulbar came, it's a factory Toyota chrome Bulbar. I didn't like the chrome. I don't necessarily love the look of this Bulbar, but I thought what I'd do while I'm waiting to save up for a better one is pop down to the shops and get a couple of cans of Raptor coating, which were nothing really. I think they're 30 or 40 bucks each. Difficulty rating on this, easy but messy, so make sure you've got drop sheets everywhere. Time, well, we had to take the Bulbar off and the scrub bar, so the time was probably about 3 hours between coats, taking the Bulbar off, sanding it, putting it back on again. Would I recommend you do this? One of the coolest mods you can do. I reckon it's changed the whole front of the car. Really happy with this. GME XRS. I've said this is an easy install. It took me about 2 hours. Now, the biggest hassle with this is getting the cables through the firewall into the inside of the car. You run this through the engine, you know, it's an install. Inside there's literally two cables. There's a negative that goes to the ground, and there's a positive that goes into your fuse box. Whether you fuse it via the ignition or it's always on, up to you. Not a particularly hard install. Probably the hardest bit is finding where to hide the unit. I've put mine up in behind the glove box. 2 hours, but I recommend you do this. It's not the hardest thing in the world to install. I'd say give it a go. MSA Mirrors, these particular ones Andy got off marketplace for 400 bucks. I think they're 800 or 900 to buy with the indicators in them for the cruiser. Marketplace is your friend. These I've put at a difficulty rating of easy, except for the electric ones. If you want them to, like, if you just want to bolt them on, the standard ones, very easy. These ones you do have to drill a hole through the door skin and connect the cables up to make it all electric, so you can adjust the mirrors, and you got to tap into your indicators to make these bad boys work. So I would say easy to medium, depending on your skill level of 12 volt, and probably about 2 to 3 hours depending on if you have to hook everything up or not. What I recommend you do this, drilling through the car is never nice, so I don't love doing it, but I did it, so it's up to you whether you want to drill through your car or not. Roof console, this one again, marketplace. These are I think $699 or $700 new. I got this one for $400 off marketplace, hadn't even been installed, came with all the instruction manuals, absolutely brand new. You reuse the factory light, it's 4 bolts, easy as install, easy peasy, the easiest you can get. You do need probably 2 people though to hold one end while you're screwing the other. There's no other electrics in it. You have to solder the wires on, you got to lengthen them. Probably a 1 hour install, but I recommend you do this. Absolutely dig into this. This is a cool place to start if you're just starting on your 4-wheel drive build journey. The head unit is an AERPRO AM-HX D3. This we installed the same time as the steering wheel, so I'm actually going to lump these both into one. PVS steering wheel on itself is pretty easy to install. It's 1 bolt. You got to take the airbag apart from the other center pad and put it back on again, but it's the wireless controls that these both talk to that probably took a lot of time. This on its own, again, not a huge install. You got to hide the HEMA maps module in behind it, but it's just plugged in with the USB, and you've got to run the speaker, or actually run the microphone to here. I've said 3 hours to install this, and I've said 3 hours to install this. It's probably together, it's probably 5 hours together, because this did take me ages to learn the wireless controls. There was a lot of fiddling about because this wasn't made for this. Would I recommend you do this? If you're happy to stuff around and fiddle and you don't get frustrated by things that don't work, give it a go. But if I had to do this again, I might not do it myself. The Gator rear vision mirror camera that's mounted to the back of the canopy allows us to see out the back. Difficulty rating on this, probably a medium. You just have to run cables through the cab, under the chassis and out to the back. I've run these ones over the canopy so I can mount the camera up high so I can see over cars in my rear view mirror. 2 hours to fit. It's not a hard install at all. I would say if you're going to tackle this yourself, it's probably not that bad. The hardest bit of it is hardwiring. Well, I hardwired this into the car. It does come with a 12 volt SIGGI plug. You can just plug straight in, so that would make it a very easy install, but I've called this a medium install. Right down here is the Redarc Towpro Elite brake controller for a caravan or a trailer. Probably a medium fit. It's a matter of running a lot of the cables, hook some of them into the trailer plug, and then obviously you pick up some power at the front, but probably a 2 hour install. Would I recommend this? Look, this is a little bit fiddly. There's lots of small wires. If you're not confident, and because we are talking about braking and caravans and a lot of weight, I would, if you're not sure about this, I definitely wouldn't tackle this yourself, because you need to make sure it's right and it works, otherwise you could be in a lot of strife. So only tackle this if you know what you're doing. Car Builder's stage 4, I think it was, sound deadening. It's in the floor, it's on the firewall, it's in the ceiling, it's all over the door cavities. Difficulty to fit, medium, because it's tedious and your hands will get really sore. You've got to rip the entire cab out, everything, the headliner, the carpets, the underfloor stuff. You got to get all that felt sticky stuff off the bottom of the carpet. Then you stick the first layer down, you got to cut it, make sure it fits up into the sides here. These plastic panels have to come off. Then there's another second layer on the roof, second layer on the back, second layer on the floor. Same with the doors, you got to take these door cards off, and while you're there I did the door pods, which involves cutting through the metal in the door to fit these speakers in. I've said 12 hours because this took me a whole weekend. It could be more, it could be 15 hours, I don't know, but this is, apart from the canopy, so the 12 volt in the canopy, this took the longest time. But it's probably one of the most worthwhile mods I've done, because the space in here, it feels nice now, it's not too noisy, and it actually, today's the sunset, and this is cool, it actually does keep the cab cool too, so big thumbs up. Would I recommend you do it? If you've got lots of patience, strong fingers, and you're happy to rip the inside of your car out, it's a worthwhile mod. So you won't be able to see it, but up in here, and there is a video of us installing it, is the 120 litre Sun Yi water tank, and we also put a pump in while we were doing it and fabricated brackets up got hoses. Look, I'm not going to mess around. This is a difficult install. It was for me anyway, just to make it work with this cruiser. They're just a generic water tank. They've just got a lip on each side, and we had to fabricate up all sorts of, we had to weld stuff to make it fit. I was at BCF 2 or 3 times to get the right hose fittings and the barbs that fit. Then I had to find had another water tank filler that didn't work. This one was better. It came from the marine industry. Bit of angle here, fabbed it, painted it. Same with the pump. Hit it in one of the toolboxes, but I had to cut holes, silicone. So I'm going to say this was a very difficult install for me anyway. And all up, all the stuffing around and buying stuff, it was 6 or 7 hours of work to get this in. I had to angle grind the spare tire holder off so I could get the tank in from the back of the tray because it wouldn't fit in from the side. A lot of stuffing, very difficult, very worthwhile. Would I do it again? No. It was a lot of work, but I'm really glad I've done it because 120 litres on board is sensational. Would I recommend you do it? No, don't. Get somebody else to do it. So the Bush Company Rooftop Tent, on the other side we've got the 270 XT Max awning, and on this side shower tent from Kick-Ass. They're all medium to fit. Time wise, the tent probably took me 3 hours. The brackets underneath, a bit fiddly, and you've got to get 3 or 4 blokes around to lift it on for you. The awning came with brackets again. That's probably a 2-hour fit to get that onto the tent before we put the tent up on the roof. And I fabbed up some of my own brackets for the shower tent from Bunnings. It's a pool fence latch and another, it's actually one of the old brackets from the awning. I made into a swivel bracket with a gas strap, again from Bunnings. All up probably 6 hours in this setup. The rooftop tent, the awning, and the shower tent, difficulty about medium. Would I do it again? Yes. Love the rooftop tent. Love it. Love the awning. Love the shower tent. All works beautifully. Very happy with that setup. The Trundle Drawer. You'd think that's an easy fit. I did too before I got this one custom made from MW Toolbox. Turns out I'm not real good at drilling holes straight. Andy, who's the Sparky and the tradie in the family, said, "Dad, why didn't you use a laser line just to get them all lined up?" And I said, "Not sure why. I measured them and I measured them all wrong. It's about as straight as a U-turn." So it took us ages to install this. I'd say about 3 hours for a job that should have taken an hour. The difficulty rating on this, I would say, should be easy, but I've made it medium. Would I do it again? No, I'd get Andy to do it because he'd be way better at this than me. But probably really good storage option, good for wet stuff and stuff you just want to throw away and you don't want to put in the dry canopy. You'll see these 2 valves here. They're for the airbags, which are tucked up on top of the leaf springs in the back there. These, I would say, were a medium install. We also installed the M-cab controls with hooked into the air compressor and ran them all the way through up into the dash. Had to get a new dash insert with the gauge, wire that all up. It actually wasn't terribly difficult to do. It was a bit, the airbags themselves weren't tricky. They were about an hour or 2, but to get the in-cab controls in, we had to get it up on Jetto's hoist and feed all the air lines through into the cab and then make them all fit in behind the dash. So it was a little bit tedious to do, probably 5 hours all up. Love the airbags though, very happy with how they work and perform. Could you tackle this yourself? Look, if you've got a bit of time and you're happy to crawl into the car, if you don't have a friend with a hoist like I'm lucky enough to have, absolutely tackle it. It's probably not a tricky install. I've said medium just because if we put the in-cab controls into. So the Manta 4-inch exhaust, not tricky, just you got to climb onto the car. They may, if you've got an older car, it might be trickier to get some of the bolts loose. This wasn't too bad at all. It probably took me about 2 hours to fit. I'd say a medium to easy install, just a few spanners and maybe a few blood knuckles if you're trying to loosen them off and your fingers smash against one of the chassis members underneath. But yeah, not too hard to do at all. Right, the big one, the canopy. Empty shell. We ended up putting well, you would have seen from the build videos, we put a false floor in here. Then we've put a full 12-volt system in that we wired up ourselves. We've put all the drawers in, 2 fridges, lights. Pete from the Foodie Club has printed us off a nice paper towel holder. Thank you, Pete, for that. You know who you are. This I've put down as a 12-hour install. Might have been more. It might have been 20 before it was all said and done. The ease of this, I'm going to say a medium. If you know what you're doing with 12 volt, it's probably on the easy side of medium. If you don't know what you're doing with 12 volt, there's a lot of YouTube videos that will help you learn about 12 volt if that's what you want to do. 12 volt by itself, once you get to know it, it's actually not the hardest thing to work with. Just make sure all your cable sizes are correct. Make sure everything's fused, because you don't want something to go on fire. So maybe if you are doing this yourself, if you take the plunge, maybe go and get it checked out by somebody who knows what they're doing before you take it on a trip, because the last thing you want to do is cause a fire. So please, if you're doing this, don't rely on the information I'm giving you. Go and find out for yourself. Take it to a proper auto sparky. When you finish it, get it all checked out, because a lot can go wrong. But when all's said and done, 12, 15, 20 hours roughly put into this, I would recommend, because you get what you want to do. You can build stuff. I find it, and Andy does too, we find it hugely satisfying to build a canopy. That's what you do when you go away camping. You live out of here and you just get it the way you want to have it. Love it. The Blackhawk radius arms, so this is the 3-inch lift kit ones, just to try and push the wheels forward a bit when we get a lift put in. I had 35s on here and they scrubbed a bit. Actually looks scary, not too bad. Took me about 2 hours. Difficulty rating, I'd say easy with these, as long as you're careful and you do one side at a time and you make sure your wheels are all chalked up. Again, if you're not sure what you're doing, you will be under the car. Don't do it if you're not sure, because this could be dangerous. But if you're happy to give it a go, plenty of videos on YouTube showing how to install them. Radius arms, easy, medium to easy. That's that. So there we have it. That's everything that we have installed ourselves. Mostly everything. We did do a couple other bits and pieces, and we had a couple of good marketplace finds. So with all that combined, this is how much we've saved on the build of the cruiser. Which just goes to show, if you're not too daunted by doing things yourself, I'm not the most mechanically minded person in the world, you can save a lot of money on building your tourer or your 4-wheel drive weapon. Get onto YouTube, learn some stuff, give it a go. You'll really enjoy the experience and you'll know how the car's put together a bit better. So with that, thank you very much for watching. Do remember to subscribe and we'll see you in the next one.